Hey everyone, today we're seeing what Korea has for us with the new patch 8.20 that came out on Wednesday. The main big change from everything from all the balanced stuff was basically Dark Harvest. So champions that use it aren't going to be as good, like Misfortune for example, and junglers are probably going to go back to Electrocute. With Misfortune, people have actually swapped a bit more to Arcane Comet though, which is actually pretty good. I just don't expect to be as sick late game, even though your early is probably going to be a bit stronger. The first one we're going to look at today though is actually nothing to do with that at all. It's pretty much overpowered at the moment. It's everywhere at higher ranks. It's so good, and it's the Saundra Aftershock. It's actually amazing, and it has such a strong start to the game and early team fight. To give you an idea, Arcane Comet with Lissandra in Korea has a 47% win rate on this patch so far, but Aftershock has almost a 56% win rate, which is ridiculous. The gap between that is nuts. You don't actually build differently, you don't even play differently either, which is the best part about this. You're still looking to dive in, you're still going to have good wave clear and some poke and stuff, but it's really about your engage. Aftershock is so good because it gives you up to 120 armor and magic resist when you press your W and you lock somebody down, or even your ultimate if you want to do it that way. Add bone plating into that as well, and overgrowth for even more health. You're really going to struggle to die now when you engage, at least at the start. You're still building full AP, you're not losing your damage, you can still burst people and kill people and carry. It's just making sure you don't get blown up as you dive in with this. Really, it's not taking that much away from your damage except a little bit from the Arcane Comet, but then again, that's more about poke, so it doesn't really change it all in. Lissandra is such a good counter to a lot of good champions at the moment over there, like Akali, because of the lockdown, the AoE damage already and stuff, but the engage really that you can bring is so good for solo queue. It's kind of weird that this is a new build, I guess, from the past week, but it's just old Lissandra with a way better keystone that makes her 10 times stronger. If you think about it, right, you have the Aftershock defenses, you have the ultimate, you have your Zhonya's as well. If you spread them out properly, that is a very long time that she's going to survive while pumping out damage at the same time. Your roaming is pretty solid, your kill potential is definitely there. You can also play this top lane, by the way, as well. It's not just mid, but there'll be more things for you to kill there, which is why I guess Korea play her mid lane more. This pick is like a perfect thing for this kind of video, really. She has jumped from not even top 20 to top 5 now mid lane, and that is with people still using Arcane Comet as well. It's 100% one of the best mid laners you can play at the moment in solo queue. It is so strong, and abuse it while you can because it probably won't last. We're going to stick with the mid lane for the next one as well. Ahri was nerfed this patch actually. Her ultimate cooldown is going to be higher at early rank, so she should die a little bit more and just isn't as safe, but isn't as strong, can't dive in as often either. Her win rate did go down a chunk, but with the slow build that you can use, she is still really strong, and that still has a good win rate. That is how good that build is. I know she's a really popular mid lane at the moment, usually at lower ranks anyway, so try the build out. We have talked about it a little bit already. You might have seen it as well. A lot of champions can use it, but Ahri is one of the best ones at the moment, at least in Korea, and we even see it more at higher elo now. But just quickly how this works, you have Glacial Augment as your keystone, right, which gives you a slow on your auto attack, but also active slows you a ray of slow on the floor. So the main thing about this is you build Twin Shadows and GLP together, which both have actives that shoot the ray out and slow the entire enemy team during team fights, or slow that person and they can't really get away. It makes hitting your Q or your charm a lot easier. That's a lot of your damage as well. You can chase people down very easily with the spooky ghost. You send them out, you ultimate towards them, and they can't really ever get away. It still gives good damage though. This is the most important part. It makes you way more useful, and the combo is pretty much still insane. If Ahri hits that charm now, she has way more damage because of the recent changes in the buffs, right? So having somebody slowed by that much is amazing for her. It kind of guarantees the charm and the damage from that. It also lets you start Corrupting Potion as well to fight a bit more and to trade and have more sustain in the lane phase. Are you going to take your Time Warp Tonic with your runes as well, which is really good with that, but just don't expect to be as bursty as you would if you had Lunes and a Morello. But apart from that, it's really good. Saying it's good is kind of an understatement. It's probably a little bit too strong at the moment, and this is definitely a very good way to go if you still want to play Ahri right now after the nerfs. So we're going to move on to Victor top lane now, and if somebody knows what the deal is with this, let us know down in the comments. But Victor is suddenly being played top lane in Korea and has a stupid win rate as well. I actually checked this on multiple sites. I looked at a lot of different games, and it legit is actually top lane as well. The win rate mainly coming from dumpstring melee matchups, mostly Darius, Fiora, and Garen. It's using Kleptomancy for the gold generation and a Q-Max instead of your E, so it's not the laser and the wave clear or anything, with Iceborne Gauntlet Rush as well. It seems like the idea is basically versus Darius, for example, you Q him, when he gets close, you poke with that auto attack, you proc the Kleptomancy, you get some gold, you do good damage, and you get the move speed to kite him so he can't get close to you. Iceborne isn't really new for Victor. The tank build has been around for a little while. It does work very well with the auto attack for the extra damage. Even though your wave clear is going to be worse with its top lane, that doesn't really matter. You're versus bruisers, right? Most of the time you have to auto attack, you're trying to fight and bully them and poke them and harass and stuff. It just seems like it's very hard to play against. The problem is going to be if they can all in you, if you misplay, or a champion like a Kali or Sion that can ignore you, or Trinimir who can jump on you, then you're kind of boned, honestly. You have like very little defense, and it's a very long lane top lane, so you can get ganked pretty easily. So versus like low mobility top laners who just have to run at you, that's where it's being picked the most and where it's really good, where you can kite and you can kind of like stay away and stuff. Corrupting Potion and Time Warp Tonic, by the way, is also the go-to for this. Same with Ahri. It's very strong at the moment, and it's really good if you can constantly proc the damage over and over. After the Iceborne and after you've upgraded your Hex Core, you've got your Rylai's and you've got your Abyssal Mask as well. So you get more tanky. It is really the tank Victor build. You still have really good damage with this and a very big AoE slow with your ultimate. We did have the build float around a long time ago. I think even Voidboy was one of the first people to use it a lot, but this is a little bit different and it's just come kind of out of nowhere. I always cover like every role in these videos, but AD carry in Korea is basically just Ezreal now, Kai'Sa, and Lucian. It's really boring. So instead, I looked for champions that do well against them that you might be able to use here if Kai'Sa is picked all the time, which she is. Sivir is the one that came up the most here. She has a good win rate in Korea, but if you avoid champions like Draven and kind of Lucian actually, you stand a very good chance to win the matchup. Sivir has been buffed a bit recently. Her Q cooldown I think was the last thing, which definitely helps and makes Storm Razor first more viable as well, which we'll go to in a second. So you have more damage in the lane phase, right? You have a bit more chance to punish these scaling matchups like Kai'Sa and Vayne, and one thing with those two is they have really, really bad wave clear. You also do well against stuff like Jhin or Misfortune because you can kind of spell shield their main damage and punish their lack of wave clear and keep them under their tower so they can't fight. Sivir can be like the easiest game of your life, honestly. If the enemy lets you push, then they spend the entire game under their tower and you just scale up to that point where you bounce through your crits. That is why her late game is still really, really good. Like her crit bounce is one of the best really. Her early isn't too bad either with the pushing and the trading and stuff, but it probably comes more down to the support matchup there. So having a strong support like an Alistar at the moment, we have them everywhere, is really good for you. You can throw your Q whenever he engages and do some good damage. You can't really expect to 1v2 though if you have a weaker support, so that's kind of why you do struggle versus like a Draven or a Lucian who will just out damage you. The best part about the Q change that we had recently that I said earlier is that obviously you have more damage if you use it more, but you don't need to rush cooldown reduction to be strong early and spam it, so you can actually rush your crit item. I think Sivir is pretty underrated, honestly. Your ultimate helps engage mid game. We haven't even talked about that, even though it's like a core part of her kit. It helps the team like get into fights if they are playing well and use their lead, but if you can push and poke early, then you can really deal with these popular matchups properly, like a Kai'Sa or a Vayne. So Nautilus support would actually be really good with her as well, like an Alistar. This is a champion we're seeing a ton of high ranks, especially in Korea. This is probably partly why we don't see much Nami in Korea. Nautilus is going to shove his anchor right up her backside every single game she's picked. It's kind of like an Alistar, but he just does more damage and he has more crowd control as if that was possible, but he just dies a bit faster instead. For the lane phase though, that is perfectly fine. Doesn't really matter. I don't think he scales as well as the Alistar Engage, but he's a great kill lane. He's also really good for lower ranks because of the damage he brings, and it's pretty simple. If they walk out into the open, you press your Q, you hook them, you auto attack to root, and with just a little bit of follow-up from the AD, they're probably going to be dead. Ziggs is also going to help a lot with that. It's amazing on him. His ultimate pops them up into the air, right, and then keeps them in place, so you should get a lot of use out of the damage part that brings. As weird as it sounds, partly why I think Nautilus is so good is probably because he works so well with Kai'Sa because of her passive. So most of her damage in lane comes from proccing the passive, and with the way it works, anytime an ally immobilizes the enemy, so hits them with crowd control basically, she gets a stack of it. So when Nautilus ulls in the enemy and engages, he hits his Q, a root with his passive, knocks up with his ultimate, and she gets 3 stacks of that already without even touching the enemy. So all she has to do is hit them twice or land her W actually from range for the passive damage to proc and blow them up. He works with a lot of other lanes for sure, but I think that's probably boosting his win rate up quite a lot. This is a little bit more at least. Either way, he's a really amazing pocket pick versus any sort of mage like a Zyra or a Nami. So moving into the jungle, we have Pantheon for today. He's been around for a little while, but for some reason, Korea has started to run Predator on him now as well. Pantheon is just amazing for solo queue. He farms okay, actually. He stays healthy because of the blocking, and he can get ganks off early. He can gank better with his ultimate later. He doesn't even scale that badly. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. And if you get fed, it's actually not that bad at all. Anyway, the reason we're talking about him today is because he's the best early game jungler now on this patch. In Korea, he is winning about 60% of games that are over before 25 minutes, which isn't even that early into the game. If though a game ends before 15 minutes there, Pantheon is on the winning team about 75% of the time in Korea so far this patch. Having a 75% win rate is ridiculous, but to be fair, only about 1.5% of games end before 15 minutes. It's just there to show you that you're picking him for that early game ganking and the snowball that he can pull off. If you're trying to climb as a jungler before the end of the season and you like ganking more than anything else, I would honestly say give him a try. So for the last one, we're going to have Evelyn, right? She was nerfed this patch. directly nerfed and through the Dark Harvest nerf. And I just wanted to mention that because her win rate actually went up this patch. They lowered her ultimate execution damage and her E damage early and forced her back onto the nerfed electrocute from a few patches ago. They are going away from Dark Harvest now after that nerf, and electrocute is more early power anyway, but it lowers her late game just a little bit. Her late game though is already amazing with her execute damage, so she isn't really losing out on too much honestly, and her damage is still just insane. Obviously she doesn't really care because her win rate is better. I think it says a lot about the champion and how good she is when a Medjai's is the third most popular item on Evelyn in Korea. I don't get how that works, but it's got like a 75% win rate when she buys it. Yes, she'll buy it when she has a lead in the game already, but she must be getting leads in games for her to buy it that often, if that makes sense. It's just ridiculous. To be fair, the nerfs did make her very early few levels weaker, and if she loses, it's more than likely after being invaded and like hard screwed before she can recover in the game. I did have a quick look though to see if any junglers can beat her reliably, and Xin Zhao or Kayn were the ones that came up the most. Kayn kind of scales into the late game really well and can kind of match her, which I think is why, but Xin Zhao has a lot of early damage that Eve cannot really get past early game. If Eve can't snowball, and if Xin finds her early and shuts her down, then she isn't going to be that strong at all. I just thought it was kind of funny, to be honest. I thought we'd end on that note. She was nerfed, Dark Harvest was nerfed, and now she's even stronger in Korea. So that is what the patch is shaping up to look like over in Korea. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thank you for watching, and for now, I will leave you with the robots.